Now we're backtracking a little bit here, but your mother was impressed with the steepness of Richwood's terrain and the doodlebug. Well, where was she from?
She was from Point Pleasant.
So she was a lowlander.
Right, and well, actually she went back and forth. One year she would live in Point Pleasant, and next year she would live in Gallup Place. She went back and forth across the river there.
Do you know why?
Well, because her mom died when she was 6 months old. And at that time, my papa, Sheline, her dad, was 19 and obviously not ready to raise a baby, 6-month-old baby girl on his own. So his mother, there was a very wealthy gentleman who lived on the Kanawha River. His name was Bobby Hutchison, and he was a insurance salesman. Also had the first library in that area in his home. It was a private library that he would charge. People could come and take out books from his house, but he charged them for it. And he had this huge house on the river there, and Mom's grandmother was his housekeeper, and she basically lived in a house behind Bobby's house. And at first, when Mrs. Sheline asked if Mom could come, he said no, and then he ended up falling in love with Mom and basically raised him like his own daughter until he passed away when Mom was almost 14.
Full-time family.
So she lived. In the meantime, her real dad remarried, and Mom would try to go back and live with him. And she missed Bobby too much, so she'd go back and live with him. So,
all right. And she went to college where?
at Glenville State Teachers College, it was called back then. Now it's just Glenville College here in West Virginia.
Okay, so was that during the war or before the war, do you know?
When she went to college,
Yeah, when she met your father.
it was right before the war.
Okay.
His dad was in school also. He was at Morgantown at the time.
Oh, he was a mountaineer, huh?
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Do you think do you think Harry to be able
Yeah.
to before he...
Are they leaving?
I think they might be leaving. Should we try to get them all stay?
You're right. How about right after
Okay.
Okay, so ever since childhood, when I would visit, I would make sure I could see your father's Purple Heart that he was awarded for his action in World War II. Tell me what you know about that Purple Heart, what he had to do to get it, where it happened, as far as to the best of your knowledge.
Okay, Dad was in the 101st Airborne, and he was in D-Day. And when he jumped out of the plane, he landed in a tree and he broke his leg, and he was captured by the Germans.
Was he shot?
No, he just broke his leg.
Broke his leg,
Yeah,
okay.
and he was shot, not shot, he landed in a tree and was captured, and they took him to their camp. And the funny story that Dad, that generation didn't talk much about the war, but the one story that he always told us was the first thing they did was they took all of his rations, and of course that included his chocolate and cigarettes, and he was very, very upset that they took his chocolate and cigarettes, and he said, and my dad did not cuss. I never heard Dad cuss. And he said, I called that German officer that took my cigarettes and chocolate every name in the book, thinking that he did not speak English. And he said, when I left and was repatriated with my unit in very perfect English, the same gentleman that he called all these names said, have a good trip, Officer Coe. And Dad said, I thought, holy crap, he knew every name I called him. But the guy that set Dad's leg, Dad ran marathons for years, never had a bit of trouble, so he was an excellent doctor. And Dad found out later, I don't know how, but that he had studied in the United States.
Okay.
That's to become a doctor.
But it wasn't the doctor that took the chocolate, it was another officer?
No, it was a different officer.
Okay.
But yeah, that's how he earned the Purple Heart.
Okay.
From that. And then he later served in he was in the Battle of the Bulge also.
Okay. Did he ever talk about, before he went into the service, he and his father and a cousin, who I think was Vernon Gibbon, worked at a war plant in Connecticut?
I knew that he worked up there, and something to do with bolts. Dave and I were just kind of talking about that a little bit today. But I really don't know a whole lot. I know that he also, summers, when he was in college at Morgantown, that he would work on the barges and clean them, which he said was a filthy, hot job. But, you know, it was a job. So that's what, I know one summer he would go out down around Charleston and ride the barges up and down and clean them. So.
Almost anything I know about our grandfather, Ori Coe, I learned from your mother, and of course she always referred to him as Mr. Coe. And I noticed about an hour ago you were talking and you said the same thing, Mr. Coe.
Right.
What do you remember your mother saying, or maybe anything your father ever said? Because my father didn't talk about his father very much.
No, I don't remember Dad hardly saying anything about Mr. Coe. I really don't. And even when we would ask questions, we were given answers, but they were very short and just.
Any guesses what the mystery's about?
He was a Coe.
Stock answer. He was a Coe.
Well, you know, I don't want to say he was a loner. I know that. I mean,
you're right.
Yeah.
I learned that from. My dad said that he preferred the company of older people than himself, and he was very fond of classical music.
Okay, so I didn't even know that. I do know that they all played, all the kids were kind of expected to play instruments, and they did. And
what he played?
Who, Dad? Trumpet. But I never heard him play. I don't think he ever even had one. And you know, I mean, it was a high school thing that he never carried through with it, and he never pushed. You know, a lot of parents push their kids to play instruments. Dad or Mom, either one, ever really pushed us to play instruments. I played
if anything, discouraged in my case.
Yeah, exactly.
I happen to know that Lewis Coe was a brilliant basketball player at Richwood High School, and
for how little he was.
Well, he wasn't so little.
Well,
but he also was a bit of a thespian.
Oh yeah, that part he loved.
And there's a story where he forgot his lines on stage.
I never heard that
and he
story.
I heard it from Grandma. He actually, during the play on stage, he just kind of looked at the audience and said, I forgot what I was supposed to say.
Yeah, Dad, not only did he, you know, was he in plays in high school, but then when we moved to Zanesville, they started up a community theater, and Dad was one of the original members.
Wow.
And I have all kinds of, Mom kept all kinds of paper clippings where he was president of the Zanesville Community Theater, and he was in all these, you know, different movies or plays and stuff, and then carried it on in Lancaster, and then even carried it on as far as when they lived in Chillicothe for a couple times. So,
If you would, please. I visited him when he was managing the city loan office in Circleville. And I was on my way back from something in southern Ohio, and I thought I'd pull in and see if he was still there. It was like 5 o'clock on a Friday. They were closing, and he wasn't expecting me. I just popped in to say hi. And he's feeding papers into the shredder. He didn't delegate it. He was doing it himself. That was his last managerial position, wasn't it? He retired soon after that? 11 minutes, okay.
yeah, that was his last. But he had been, the reason that we moved from Zanesville to Lancaster was he became what was called, he had a district office. They kind of changed where he had a fourth of the state, which encompassed pretty much from Marietta all the way up to, well, Zanesville was it, or Lancaster was in it, Chillicothe, New Lexington, McConnell. I mean, there was all these little offices that were all southeast Ohio.
Yeah.
So he did that for the whole time that we lived in Lancaster, which was a lot of traveling. There was a lot of times that he was spent overnight, where he had never done that before. And then when they moved from Lancaster to Chillicothe, then he went back to just taking a regular. I think the traveling kind of had gotten to him. You know, he was tired of doing that. So.
Well, how old was he when he retired?
He was 64. He actually took a 1-year early retirement because I think he knew that he was in the early stages, you know, of Alzheimer's at that point. I know Mom and I knew.
How old was he when he passed?
70.
78.
He had 14 plus years. Long time.
And his health was okay during that time?
He was healthy. I mean, he was, well, like what you said about your mom.
Yeah.
That's what they told us about Dad. They said he has the heart of a teenager. He used to have to wear something when he ran, because if he would have fallen and hit in his head, they would have thought he passed out because he had such a low pulse rate. And he was just super, super healthy.
Wow.
I mean, Dad was one of these that back in the mid-60s, well, you know, he smoked, and then when the Surgeon General first came out and said smoking, Dad just came home, threw away his pack of cigarettes. You know, poor Mom, it took her years and years and years to finally, you know, and she'd still go out on the back porch and sneak one every once in a while and that kind of thing. But Dad, if Dad made up his mind that he was gonna, you know, and it was the same thing, you know, he heard where red meat was bad, he didn't eat red meat anymore. You know?
Well, that would have killed Lester, huh?
Well, it was hard. I mean, you know,
Oh, yeah.
I'm a carnivore to this day, and it was hard for us, but not Dad. He, you know, he got to the point where he would eat fish and chicken, and
Wow.
that was about it as far as, you know, meats of any kind. So he lived a healthy lifestyle.
You like ramps?
Yeah, he liked his ramps. He did.
I remember that one Easter going down there, and Dad and Uncle Lewis out in the grill with, and they were, the doors were shut, the windows were shut, they were not
I remember
allowed.
Rita's little brother coming over and going, "What are you cooking? It stinks!" And Mom never used that. She would only use that one big cast iron skillet for that. She said, "I'm never cooking anything else." I never did. Just ramps, because it still had that ramp smell.
Yeah,
in it,
I
you know?
bet.
Well, I had a great big bowl of Gramps. There's a diner that reopened in Richwood after the flood. I didn't go to the ramp feed this year. I just went over to that diner and ordered nothing but ramps. I didn't want to eat anything else but ramps. I love them.
Good for you. I'm not a fan of them. I never have been.
Oh yeah, we made my ex-husband a ramp lover. He makes ramp butter. He gets oh yeah.
Oh, you can do a lot of things with ramps.
I'm sure you can.
What do you got to say about your remembrances of Grandma?
Mima.
Mima. You guys
Yeah,
said
you guys,
Mima, we
yeah.
said Grandma.
And then the other one said Mama, so there was all the different. Mima was special. I don't know how. She, excellent baker.
Yep.
You know, you can't.
Biscuits.
Wow, corn pone was I loved her corn pone. Her
Banana
pies,
cream pie.
her, you know, I mean, the list could go on and on, but whenever we would go, Mima would always have bananas for me. She would always, I loved bananas when I was little, and she would always have a big bundle of bananas sitting on the Hoosier cabinet over there, and I just, you know, I just have really, really good memories of her being a lot in the kitchen. I do remember a lot of my memories of Mima are in the kitchen, but she was one of a kind.
Were you witness on the trip from Lewis Code to visit his brother in Summersville, where soon upon arrival he
They had-
packed everybody out? Tell the whole story.
Well, Dave tells it.
Tell the truth, and I was there.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'll get your opinion on that.
Well, unfortunately, they were talking politics,
Oh,
which Uncle Leonard and Dad should never talk politics because they didn't agree on their political views, and they got. Well, actually, Karen was at that with you, and she came with us, and that was one of the first times that Karen had been around the whole family, so she got a real good impression. You drive 6.5 to 7 hours all the way down. You come down to West Virginia. You sit there for about 2 hours. Dad and Uncle Leonard got into a big argument, and Dad said, "Come on, we're going home." And we all kind of looked at him like he was kidding, and he's like, "No, we're leaving. We're not." But I said the other thing I always remember is every time we went up to your house, they got into argument about playing cards because Dad hated playing cards, and your
Dad
mom and Dad would always talk him.
every Saturday night with.
They would talk Dad into. He's like, "I'm not. Don't ask me to play cards. I'm not going to play cards." And invariably, they would end up playing cards, and your mom would have had a couple martinis or whatever, and so and Dad would. "I hate cards. I don't want to play cards." And then you guys would leave because you were the big guys, and you were allowed to go to the movie theater. And from
We were
Becky
stuck up front upstairs.
and me on Dad, we had to stay with all the little kids, you know,
Yeah.
and which that's yeah, but yeah, we turned around and drove back all the way back. She didn't spend the night, and I'm sure that just crushed me, Mom. But that was the way it was when you were co. You weren't going to change their mind, you know.
And you still can't.
We'll sign up.
That's for sure.
Well, unless you got something to add, I think your cousin Perry's next in line.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you, Ellen.
Thank you.
I hope I'll be at least half entertained.
I want to hear your side of the same story that she told.
Yeah, you might have a whole different story here.
The pictures, our pictures, do you have those?
Oh, they may be in this?
And we're gonna have to take off.
Green family. Yep. Yep.
You already went down?
I can give you, make copies.
Please do. Please do. Where'd Mark go? I don't know how to pause this thing.
No,
Way down there. Well, it's still on. But he's going to come back because I know he's going to take a still photo of you holding that same name sign.
Okay.
But for the sake of this is still on. He'll be back up to he's got to charge the battery, I guess. But let's just start talking, Perry.
All right.
Hold that up, please. So Perry, I wrote down that you were born in Somersville. Is that accurate?
Wanda.
No, I was born in Richwood, West
Oh.
Virginia.
I don't think.
We're going to fix that.
Wanda?
You know, I suspect I should have asked you first. Second,
Yes, you did.
Sacred Heart
Sacred Heart?
Hospital in Richwood, West Virginia.
That's where
Still
JJ
taking
was born.
donations?
April 22nd, 1958.
I think this is easy for most of them.
Today's date is July 27. All right.
Yeah, nice big news.
So Perry, we're not going to take this in chronological order because we just heard from our cousin Ellen about the sometimes tempestuous relationship between Lewis Coe and Leonard Coe. And you had commented that you were there and you witnessed that very same visit from Uncle Lewis and family.
Yeah, I was there.
Anything to add to Ellen's description of that?
Well, it started with a political discussion.
What did they have to disagree about?
Well, you had two different candidates, and one of the candidates was Uncle Lewis's candidate, and the other candidate was my father's candidate.
Do you remember which election it was, what they were talking about?
This was for I think the governor's position in the state of West Virginia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so Uncle Lewis had his view who would be the right person, and my dad had a different view. There was some discussion about one of the candidates having a sexual affair with someone in Richwood at that time.
Oh, really?
Yes, and my father got pretty adamant about that happening at that time, and Uncle Lewis got pretty upset and came out during the dinner. And that's what really was the thing that kind of caused that.
So they were arguing about the truth of it, of the rumor?
Well, yeah, and I think my father and Uncle Lewis, they both had their own ideas of who was the correct candidate. My father, who drove a bread truck at 4 o'clock in the morning, would see when people were fooling around with other people.
He'd come down
Okay, so he knew
had lunch with you.
he knew what was going on at that time in terms of the
Oh, okay.
You want to? Excuse me.
Damn it.